Why did God make me? And what does He want from me? In this video series, we are asking big questions like that, and we are looking for the answers in the one book that has endured through many pandemics and wars and political shifts and all kinds of turmoil, and yet still, after 2,000 years, still gives the best answers to life's biggest questions, the only true and reliable answers to life's biggest questions. And that book is the Holy Bible. We are looking there for the answers to life's big questions. And the first one is kind of a two-parter. Why did God make me, and what does He want from me? Well, here's why God made mankind. I'm just going to lay it out, and then we'll walk through the little pieces of the answer in the Bible. God made humans. He made me and you to rule the earth in the fear of God. God made mankind, He made me, He made you to rule the earth in the fear of God. Now, it will take me time to unpack each part of that from the scriptures, but here we go. We start in Genesis 1, when He makes us. He says, let us make man in our image, using a kind of a royal we there. I'm going to make man in my image, after our likeness, and let him have dominion over, and then he goes through all the stuff that is in the world, the fish of the sea, the birds of the air. Makes us in His image to have dominion over everything else that He has made on the earth. So to have dominion is to rule, right? To rule over all this stuff. And in ancient days, rulers would set up like a sub-ruler under them over a certain area, and they would call that person their covenant son or their image bearer. They would say, I have set up this ruler to rule in my image in this place. And that ruler was expected to give great reverence to the high king and to do everything that the high king said. But they would rule that small part of the kingdom in the name of the bigger ruler. So in these words, God is setting us up as kind of that sub-ruler. He rules all of the universe. How many planets and stars are there? He rules it all. But over earth, He's given us dominion, the authority to rule under Him. And that is why we are able to take dirt and make it into cell phones. And that is why we're able to take trees and turn it into paper and make it into books. And that's why we're able to go hunting and all this stuff that we do. We have these abilities. We have dominion over the earth because He gave it to us. So we're made in His image and to have dominion over the earth. That means we're made to rule the world under Him. Now, I say that we're made to do this in the fear of Him. Well, what does that mean? Well, to fear God means to tremble with happiness before His glory and to walk in all of His ways. Now, there is probably a part of your heart that is so satisfied when you are in awe of something so much bigger than yourself. If you think of the happiest moments in your life, they probably didn't come when you were looking deep within yourself and thinking about how great you are. They probably came when you were looking at something so much greater. You're looking up at the stars in the sky and just thinking, wow. Or you're holding a newborn baby for the first time and just in awe of the wonder of new life. Or you're looking at the Great Barrier Reef or some incredible thing, right? And your heart just leaps and there's some satisfaction there. Well, that's because your heart was made to tremble with joy at something incredible. In fact, those smaller things, like the Great Barrier Reef and the Grand Canyon, the smaller things, only point to the glorious God of the universe, who, if you lived in awe before Him, your heart would finally be satisfied. Psalm 8 says, when I consider the heavens, the work of your fingers, the sun, the moon, and the stars, which you put into place, what is man that you're mindful of him? This psalmist is so happy. Psalm 19 says, the heavens are telling of the glory of God. The sky above proclaims His handiwork. These great things in creation point to the great Creator. And that small sense of satisfaction you see when you were in awe before them, you would be fully satisfied if you could see God in His glory and tremble with joy before Him. The old word for that, the ancient word for that, is the fear of God. That is what it means to fear Him. It's not to be afraid of him. No, it's not to be scared of him. No. It's to see how awesome he is and tremble with joy before him. Now, back to our purpose of ruling the earth in the fear of him. If the one who was ruling under the high king was expected to give great reverence to the high king and to do everything the high king says, well, it makes sense that if we're ruling the earth under God's rule over all creation, what would he want from us? He would want us to have great reverence for him, and he would want us to do everything he says, right? He would want us to rule it within his ways, not outside of them. Sure enough, the book of Ecclesiastes says at the very end, says, the end of the matter, all has been heard. Fear God and keep his commands, for this is the whole duty of man. What's the whole duty of man? If you want God to be happy with your life and say, you have done your duty, well done, what do you have to do? You got to fear him and walk in his ways, or keep his commands, as it says there. The book of Acts, in chapter 10, verses 34 and 35, Peter says essentially the same thing, that everyone from every nation, no matter who you are, where you're from, everyone who does what is right and fears God, it says that opposite order actually, who fears God and does what is right, is acceptable to him. If you want to be acceptable to God, what do you have to do? You've got to live in the fear of him and walk in all of his ways. If you do that, your life is acceptable to God. That's what he wants from you. Live constantly in worship of him, giving glory to him, and walking in all of his ways. And that's the best place you can be in, because all of his ways are good. He's the one that designed creation. If you want to do life best, listen to him, listen to his wisdom, and walk in his ways. And your heart was made to seek awe and be glad when you are amazed by this good God. In fact, when Jesus returns, in another video we'll talk more about who Jesus is. When Jesus returns, he is going to set up in a new and even more glorious creation. He's going to set up for his people to rule the earth forever in his kingdom, gladly worshiping him and walking in his ways. When you see people in the book of Revelation, what they're generally doing is singing and shouting praise. They're just bursting with praise because they can see God finally in his glory. They're finally doing what they were made to do, and so they're bursting. They're so happy. And we will live in his ways in this new creation forever, ruling it alongside King Jesus. Finally, as we were made to do, ruling the earth in the fear of God. That is the only way you can be happy, if you have that kind of relationship with him. That is the only way you can do what you were made to do, and the only way your life can please God. But to get there, you've got to make your relationship right with God. There are problems in your relationship with God. So you want to be made right with him. If you want him to approve of you in your life and welcome you into that kingdom, we've got to make your relationship with him right. And the next video, called What is the Good News, talks about just what you have to do, or just what really has been done for you to make that relationship right.